Hello, everyone. Good morning, evening, and afternoon, depending on wherever you are. Welcome to yet another meeting for the Kubernetes 1.18 release. My name is Jorge. I am the release team lead for 1.18. And before we get started, I want to remind everyone that the Kubernetes community has a code of conduct, which essentially boils down to please be nice to each other, don't be a jerk. And with that, let's get started doing cool open sourcey things. And actually, before we go into enhancements, if anyone wants to help out and take notes, please open up the meeting notes and feel free to add your name in there as a note taker. And with that, enhancements. Jeremy, please take it away.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. So we are getting pretty close to code freeze. It'll be on March 5th. At this point, we have 48 issues that we're tracking. 2 of them have decided to drop out of the release. The first one is number 536, which is, as I open a browser window, topology-aware routing of services. They've decided to go back and rethink the approach. And the second one is number 859, which is includes kubectl command metadata and HTTP request headers. So Phil Whitrock just dropped that from the release a couple hours ago, or a couple days ago. So with that in mind, the other thing to really report is that since we're getting close to code freeze, we're monitoring things for getting PRs merged. And right now, about half of the 48 things, around 20, have PRs that are open still, which isn't really unusual from last release, it seems. There was a lot of stuff that happened in the last 2 weeks. PRs are open, and a lot of them are in review. People are working through comments. A good number of them are also like pretty close to, they're just looking for approves. So we've gone through and marked all of those things as at risk in the enhancements tracking spreadsheet. I think the next milestone is the docs PR placeholder deadline, which is the 28th, I think. So we'll revisit the number of issues then if people haven't gotten docs placeholders open. But for now, that's the status. So 20-ish things. As of this morning, we're still waiting PR merge.
Sweet. Sounds good in the grand scheme of things. Hopefully people get their stuff. But other than that, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns regarding?
We are actively pinging people and trying to follow up on Slack and GitHub just to make sure that they're aware that code freeze is the 5th, obviously, is the first thing. But also seeing if anybody needs assistance in getting reviews and if we can track any of those down for them.
Sweet. Sounds wonderful. Anyone has any comments, questions, concerns? Going once, twice?
Wait, hey.
Hey.
Please.
This is less a current release, but more so a sustainability and just a review from the team thing. Has anyone from Enhancement had a chance to review the updates?
Yes.
Tim, okay, cool.
Yeah, I've been reviewing it. I haven't left any comments yet, but in between work and doing this, I've been reviewing that stuff.
Okay, cool. The complete sentence for everyone who is wondering was, so Tim Hawken put up a few proposed changes to the enhancements process. So there's like a metacap that's tracked on issue 617. So it's kept 617. If anyone wants to comment on that, feel free. I'll dig up the link in a second.
And I actually have it open, so I can add it to the meeting notes as well.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, putting link in there. And let me add a title really quick. While I do that, if anyone has any more comments, this is the perfect time. Okay, sweet. With that, thank you very much for your comment, Steven. And Jeremy, thank you very much for all the work that you and your team have been doing. And let's move on to CI Signal. I believe that Nico mentioned that he wasn't going to be available, but is anyone from CA Signal here around? I hear crickets. Okay, so let me go through the update. So notable events. Let us check master blocking really quick. So we have a SKU cluster latest kubectl stable 1 GCE that is actively failing, and GCE cost master default that's flaking. Let's start with cost master default, since that one is closer to the what is actually being tested on the blocking pre-submits for Kubernetes. And it seems that one of the latest runs failed to actually create a cluster, but other than that, nothing in particular seems worrisome. SKU cluster latest kubectl, that one has been failing for a while, and I believe I need to actually check in with CI Signal on this, and let me add a note about that on the meeting notes. That one is under investigation. Well, okay, that one is already in the meeting notes. I think this might be somewhat related to one infrastructure change that was made by SIG testing last week. I can't remember for the life. Yeah. Go for it.
So workload identity was enabled on the GKE clusters, I believe, which basically caused I think a failure in one of the functions that we use to do the get headers, the authorization headers for the getcube.sh. Ben pushed an update to that, but I actually pushed another update, which is in the chat now, which I'm kind of questioning whether we need auth headers for public buckets. They're all, I mean, I think all the Kubernetes assets should be in public buckets. So that PR actually removes that block of code. I'm going to wait until Ben gets online to discuss some of that. But essentially, that would need to be whatever fix we decide is the right fix needs to be cherry picked to all of the active branches. So I think there are a bunch of failures where it's marked that it's under investigation and links back that same issue. And the reason that they're all failing is because they're having the same auth headers issue. So.
Thank you so much for that. I couldn't remember the exact details, but that sounds like a pretty good summary of everything that is going on.
Daniel probably has a better update, though.
Sorry, I just wanted to let you know I'm on the call now. We had some our presenter today had some trouble joining, so I'm happy to fill in and pick up anything. I'm not sure where we're at exactly on going through it, but I'm around if needed.
Actually, since you're part of the CI Signal, you probably have a lot more context on all the details. And I just went through master blocking. Can you take us from master informing and on, please?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Stephen touched on that. The change with the workload identity affected a lot of the jobs. So we're still kind of recovering from that, which is why you'll see the volume of failing right now and why we're in the red. Most of these others are ones that have been like triaged and someone is working on. And so there aren't any that are of too much concern. But for instance, like the GCE Windows Container D1, that one's been on here for quite a while. And that is related to a test that's a work in progress, which has kind of brought up the question of, should we be including a test that's a work in progress, you know, in an informing board. So that one's kind of persisted on here for quite a while. Let me see.
Where did we land with that discussion?
I don't think we really got anywhere, but well, I don't think that we want to bring in any new work in progress ones, but since this one is already here, it is like, should we actually remove it? And so I don't know, the last follow-up was on January 21st. And well, actually, Nicholas responded 7 days ago, and we haven't gotten an update there. So it may be time to think about moving this out of the board.
Yeah. Can y'all reach out to SIG Windows chairs and tech leads?
Cool. Sounds good. And that is like a bit of a one-off. It's not like those are coming in, you know, all the time. I'm not exactly sure how this one got included. And let's see, release miscellaneous. Stephen already commented on this one that's here. And I think some of these other ones around 1.17 blocking and informing were related to identity, the workload identity. The first one here has had a significant amount of discussion on the issue. And there was a fix implemented by Ben, but it did not fix the issue. So we followed up on it, and it looks like it's actively being addressed as well.
So the infrastructure issue masked an actual test failure.
Okay, gotcha.
No, I'm asking.
Oh, yes, that
Okay.
was the issue with that one. I don't think that the rest of them, that was not the case, but this one, there is an actual test failure that's being addressed now.
Can you say which job it was again, please?
This is the Kate Stable alpha features.
Kate Stable alpha features. Okay, awesome. And I'm going by the notes. It says 117 blocking. So is that issue not present in the 118 blocking?
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure because I didn't prepare the notes. But yeah, I'm not sure why that's the case.
Okay, awesome. So it's not a huge issue. So let's make a note for looking into that later on. But having issues with 117 in here is awesome, but technically our biggest priority is master and 118.
Right. And it looks like we do have one failing on 118 here, but I think we have an issue open for that. But none of these that are listed here are failing on 118 currently.
Sweet. I'm looking at 118 right now. Seems to be the SKU cluster kubectl again. So probably related to master. Other than that, so I guess big things. The alpha features one, we can investigate that one asynchronously. The other thing that I wanted to mention, you mentioned that there was some discussion with the Windows containerd issue, whether it should be added to informing or not. It's been a while since I actually since I went through the documentation for blocking test on SIG release. If you do you know off the top of your head if there is any documentation in there that mentions that we shouldn't add any work in progress test to informing?
I don't think there's anything that specifically calls that out.
So on that note, do you think that we should add it?
What did you say?
In that case, do you think that we should add something regarding the discussion that you all had with Windows about when to add test to informing?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Sweet. So I can open up an issue, or someone from CI Signal.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Can open up an issue, and we'll take that as an action item.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've documented in the past is how to move something from informing to blocking, right? And not so much the entry criteria for informing. So I think the things that have been in there classically have not been removed, even though maybe they should be.
That makes sense. Sounds about right. With that, does anyone have any more comments, questions, suggestions regarding CI Signal? Going once, twice, sold. Thank you very much.
Yep, sorry that we were a little unorganized today. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, life happens. But thank you very much for all the details that you filled in, and all the work that you all do. And with that, let's move on to bug triage.
Hello, yeah, I'm Gianluca, and I will give you the update today. So the numbers are going down slowly, so the overall the status is green. we're keeping pinging issues and pull requests mainly based on the priority label right now. So we are carefully looking at the critical urgent one. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions, comments for bug triage?
For bug triage, please take a look at the issue triage PR that's open. Cap improvements. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if that's maybe you, Jorge.
It's weird. It's only when you talk, Steven.
Oh no! Oh no! Okay, so yeah, so there's a cap open for the issue triage workflow. So we're talking about adding some bits into that to help make it easier to triage issues and PRs across Kubernetes to start. So if you have interest, please take a look at that. It's popping it in the notes right now.
Okay, I will be sure to forward it.
Cool.
Please, and thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? Okay, sounds good. So up to docs.
Hello everyone. So the docs update for today is the current status seems to be yellow today. So we have a deadline in less than 3 days, which is on February 28th. Docs placeholder PRs deadline. So the total enhancements as of today is 49. So we had 50, but one was removed out of the milestone. And needs docs, like we have 31 enhancements who confirmed that they need docs for the new enhancements, and placeholder PRs in place are 16. So we have delta of 15 PRs which need to be placed in place. So we are positive about this 15 enhancements, as the enhancements owners are like we'll put them like by end of today or tomorrow. And we have 8 unknown enhancements, like we reached out to them twice but we didn't receive any response back. So from today we'll be reaching out to them in person in Slack, and if needed we will also reach out to the respective SIGs. So this is the status of docs today.
Please, also, if there is any need that if there's any help that you need getting hold of people, please either ping me directly or any Mr. Bobby Taylor, or someone from SIG Release, and we will be more than happy to help you get people.
Yeah, sure, George. I'll reach out to you personally if I have any challenges in tracking them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone has any other comments, questions regarding docs? Okay, sounds good. Next on the list, Adolfo, release notes.
So hi everyone. So currently our status is green. We have generated the release notes for beta 0 last week. Well, actually, I just generated the release notes for beta 0 in the JSON format today. But last week we spent some work on trying to generate the release notes with Creel for the first time. We basically added an interface to Sasha's work into integrating the release notes gather into Creel, and it seems to be so far working quite good. And we only have 2 current issues, which are we're worried about hitting the GitHub API limit, because GitHub limits you to 5,000 calls per hour, and we are estimating that as the final release approaches, we're going to hit that. So we will have to take that. We wanted to know, Sasha, I don't know if you're there, if you have considered that in the release notes gatherer.
Yeah, should be no problem, because we have this auto timeout, which
just waits 1 minute or so, and then the release note generator will just continue on that.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then the other was the discussion on dumping the JSON release notes into a GCP bucket. We didn't want to do further work into that one because we were pending on seeing if we were going to go if we were going to have the bucket or not. I've linked the issue on the agenda right now, so if anyone wants to see about that. I think Stephen, you were going to see into that, right?
Yeah. So the bucket should be easy to do. I just wanted to see some of the stuff move a little further along. But now that implementation's there, I'll step back into that issue. I'm wondering, do we think there's a need for an additional bot to do some of this stuff, Sasha, like a Kate's release notes bot or something? I'm not terribly concerned about the API call limit, but just a little bit.
I mean, if we do it manually, a bucket would help in any case. Or I mean, the limit is really no problem at all. It's just a standard API rate limiting from GitHub. We also have no chance to actually overcome this obstacle, I think so.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, let me think about where this bucket lives and get back to y'all.
One more question, Sasha and Stephen. Have we thought again about, as we're getting close to RC, we need to start putting together the final release notes template and markup file? And in the past, there was a template or in that release notes folder, and now that we moved to the kind, that's all changed. So have we looked at that again, or how do we want to attack it? I want to get ahead of that before we have to send that out to all of the SIG leads to do their edits for the final release.
Yeah, so there's also an open PR around templating for the release notes. I'm not sure if that, Sasha, do you know if that's stalled out?
I'm not sure. I think there's just some review which needs to be done.
Okay.
Then we can get it in.
Yeah, I think the last thing was like we need a rebase on it or something. But yeah, but ideally the template that we're using lives close to the tool as well. So yes, action item for someone.
I mean, I could take it. I just want to make sure, like, if there's going to be that change, and if we have to change that MD file, I'll put the issue through, and I'll change the template file to match the kind. Yeah. Basically, what I want to do is I want to make it match as close as possible to what the output of the rel notes is, and then that way we just run one last rel notes and then send it out to the SIG chairs to edit once we export it out to like HackMD or whatever, right? And just say we start editing. So
yeah, I mean, ideally the tool is spitting out exactly the template that we need, right? So there's no need to modify it in two places.
Yeah, it wasn't before. That's the problem.
Yeah,
it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was ugly. So okay, cool.
Yeah. So ideally we do that. So if the tool is not matching what we need it to do today, then we just make sure it spits out the right template. And
right. Well, what I'll do is I'll pull a PR on that issue, so that way there's a diff on the new template versus the old template, and everyone can see what the changes are, and then determine what we want to add or remove from there, so that we have the new template with it's organized by kind instead of by SIG, and then we can kind of organize it and go from there.
Perfect. Yeah. So Sasha, one thing I meant to mention was we don't need the header kind, like I think changes by kind or something is one of the headers. We don't actually need the header. Like I think it's implied that the changes are sorted by kind.
Yeah, I agree. But the question is also if we want to have something like separate metrics and stuff like that.
Potentially. The only reason I noted is I think that once we did manual changes to the both the template that we send out in announcements as well as the existing change logs, it provides like a double header. so it's like changes and then changes by kind, and they're both second header indented or something. It's a formatting thing. It's a small thing, but it's a formatting thing.
Yeah. So we're good with release notes if that's it.
Okay, sweet. Quick question, Evil Genius. Whatever work you end up doing, can you link the issue or PR to the notes?
Yes, absolutely, will do. Yep.
Please, and thank you so much. Other than that, any more questions for release notes? Going once, twice, solved. Again, thank you very much, everyone. And now, up to communications.
All right, this is Paul. I'm filling in for Karen Chu, who got a unexpected visit from a plumber during our meeting. So I'll be reading off the notes. So we've recently finished working with Jorge to reach out to most SIGs. We're waiting on one last one. So whoever you are out there, we'll be in touch shortly. We are going to be prioritizing the blog items amongst the group this week, focusing on what we think is most important to highlight. And then we've already confirmed that Jeremy, as long as he's not frozen into an ice cube, and Jorge will be hosting a CNCF webinar on April 23rd, in addition to working with the CNCF this week to define the press and analyst relations timelines.
Thank you so much, Paul. Anyone has any comments, questions, suggestions? Going once, twice. Thank you so much. And let's see, next on the list is Carlos with Release Branch Management. Sasha, since you're on the line, could you?
Yeah, I can take it. Yeah, we are basically green. So we cut the release branch where we are running our daily fast forwards right now. And yeah, for tomorrow we'll have been scheduled better one. And yeah, I think that's it from our side.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone has any questions, comments, suggestions? No? So on to Emeritus Lead.
Thanks, George. Two quick updates for me. I have the mid-release shadow survey ready to send out, so I'll send that out today. So if you're a shadow, keep an eye out for that. It should take you about 2 minutes to complete, and your completion would be much obliged. Thank you very much. And the other piece is I'm going to be ramping up, pinging everybody to start thinking about secession for the next release. I know we're only halfway through this one, but the more time I give you to think about that, the better off. So I will be pinging everybody to think about potential candidates to take their roles for the next release. That's it, George. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone has any comments, questions? Okay. I hear crickets. So again, thank you so much. And I guess it's now my turn to speak. So big things that I have to mention. Code freeze is coming. And other than that, other important deadlines that we have this week, I believe, is we have to have open placeholders for PRs by February 28th. On top of those two things, again, code freeze is coming, and this week we are going to start with burn down meetings. If you notice, hopefully everyone in this meeting and everyone that is not in this meeting but in the release team, please hold leads, double check with your shadows to make sure that they get invites. But hopefully you all got invites and notice that the meeting times for the Wednesday and Friday meetings are different from today. And the reason for those timings is I actually went off the doodle that I sent out at the beginning of this release cycle. So I'm basing it off on the availability that everyone checked in the doodle from 4-6 weeks ago. I'll try to go around with each group and see if the time works out. And let's see, other than that, today called for exceptions again. We're getting really close to code freeze, and we want to make sure that everyone has their features in a good place to be released for 1.18. And as my wise emeritus lead just mentioned, please start thinking about succession. Pick out some time in the future to chat with your shadows. Think about who's going to take your place for Kubernetes 1.19. And I'm gonna make a quick stop for anyone to make any comments, questions, suggestions before we move on to scalability updates. Okay, sweet. So time for scalability updates. And this is from Matt, who's a chair with 6 scalability. And he just reads that everything looks good from the scalability side. We don't have any regressions at the moment. And there are some one-off failures from the master informing test, but they turned out to be flakes. And other than that, I haven't received any secret information that there's anything to worry about at this moment from any scalability related test. Does anyone have any comments, questions, suggestions? Okay, cool. So with that, open discussion. There are a handful of issues that I added to the open discussion, which, if people are open to discussing, this is the time for it. But I just wanted to bring your attention to them. So enhancements, kept artifacts, issue a pull request 1545 in the enhancements repo. If you care about enhancements, please triple check on this one. Keep comments, reviews. The second issue that I want to bring up is about making the release team it's about having more asynchronous communication in the release team. Again, one of the features that we have is a lot of people in the release team are distributed around the world, and we want to provide the opportunity for everyone to contribute equally to the release team. Within the past couple of weeks, there have been some proposals on how to improve communication within the release team. If you have any more proposals, please drop them in there. If you have any thoughts about the existing proposals, please do so as well. We want to hear your feedback and want to do anything that is humanly possible to make this whole team as inclusive as we can. And the next issue, this one it was kind of hidden in the release board. So investigate automation to facilitate tracking of spreadsheets. I ping all the leads for the release team, but again, really hoping to hear feedback from everyone here. If you think that you could make use of a spreadsheet that looks anything like the enhancement spreadsheet, please drop a comment in there. Mention that you need it, mention that you would like to test it out, and hopefully we can get the experts from enhancements, Jeremy, Bob, and everyone that has been around to do one of those enhancement spreadsheets to help you out. And those were my general announcements. Does anyone have any other topics that you all want to discuss, or does anyone want to discuss any of those issues?
Yeah, just to around the sheets. The sheets kind of relate to the enhancing of the KEP artifacts. So people who have read the proposal are aware that kind of the main thing that we want to do there is break KEPs out from a single flat file into a directory structure, right? Separate the metadata from the top of the front matter of the markdown file into its own file, so it can be ingested in various places. If that metadata includes details around by binding the KEP number to the GitHub issue, we then have a kind of a way to track, okay, what issue is open for the enhancements team, right? But also anyone who wants to view it can view the KEP via, can view the enhancement issue via the KEP metadata, right? So eventually this will be presented on a site, and then hopefully like this, we won't need an enhancement tracking sheet, right? So if you have ideas for the kind of data that you're looking for in your tracking spreadsheets, if you don't have one already, know that we're trying to get rid of things like the enhancement tracking spreadsheet, right? So more data that you're providing towards that allows us to think more clearly about this process, whether it be on the KEP side, whether it be in different release notes automation or bug triage, like there's a KEP open for the issue triage stuff too. So getting, I want to make sure that like as we're moving through this, that we're moving towards processes that are proactive instead of reactive. There's some things that we do on the teams right now that are kind of like, oh, ping a person and wait till a thing happens, right? As opposed to provide a process up front that allows the thing to happen without having to constantly ping someone, right? Of course, the human interaction is always required, but the more we can get machines in front of this would be lovely, right? This is going to make everyone's life easier. So that's why pretty much all of these meetings I go like, please go review the KEPs. Like go look at those KEPs. They're going to be big for us in later cycles. So.
Thank you for your comment. Does anyone have any more comments? Okay, so with that, let's move on to your favorite part of this meeting, and let's walk the board. Let me start sharing screen, and we can get started. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, so let's get started. So review in progress. So I sent out a couple PRs. These are small PRs, minor documentation. Ensure that release team lead organizes a retrospective. Just a small reminder in the lead handbook to point out, to tell the lead and team of how to organize a release retrospective, nothing major, just documentation, and document release team mailing list membership criteria. I believe that nowhere in SIG release did we actually have who's owner, who's a manager, and who's supposed to be a member for the release team membership for the release team mailing list. So this issue is an attempt to get that documented. Next up in progress, and I kind of moved this one around because I want to ask a question. Steven and possibly Tim, if you're on the line, I will.
Yo.
118 swag shirts. What can I do?
I feel like you DM'd me about this. Yeah, so what we're working on right now is essentially we're working with True, who usually handles execution of like the release swag from our swag from various places across the CNCF properties, about creating like a release team store and having like seasons, kind of, right? Where the team would have access to their season, right, 118 or what have you, right, and get promo codes to essentially go to the store, choose their sizes, and choose an item without necessarily having to aggregate a contact sheet and a list of everyone's sizes. And we think that that's a little simpler to manage across the cycles than what we're doing today, which is ad hoc, essentially. I think there are a few emeritus release team leads on the call who can agree that the process is kind of ad hoc. Essentially, we send, someone figures out a design for something, sends an email somewhere, and then magically stuff eventually happens. We need to get a timeline down for that stuff. So the fact that you're starting right now is super awesome. The thing that you need to do is ping me, and you've done that. So did we hear back regarding the design? Are we happy with that? I know you wanted to, do we want to maybe tweak that, the not the logo, but kind of like the, whatever you call that, the words that go with the logo, the slogan for the team. There was talk about maybe tweaking that. So we can get up offline if you want.
Okay, sweet. So I was looking for my next steps. So next steps, go on about the slogan, logo, and at some point, if we're happy with it, make it public, and then at some point, swag is gonna be available.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you so much. And sorry for breaking the format for this part of the meeting. But let's see. Next up, investigate automation to facilitate tracking spreadsheet. Again, I just mentioned this one. Let me double check that there hasn't been anything super important since I just commented on this a little while ago. And yeah, nothing. So again, just mention this one. Please take a look at this issue. I'll ping again on Slack to make sure that people who are not on this meeting drop their feedback. Proposal for shallow Halo process. This one.
I have this, George. It's one sentence that I'm still yet to write. One day I'll do it.
Sweet. So actually, based on that,
I like to keep this as an honest marker of how much I've done this year.
So actually, based on that, I was looking at this, and since there wasn't any comment on, or something, I gonna assign you. You want me to assign you back?
Please.
Okay, sweet. Just wanted to double check.
Thank you. It helps me get out of bed.
In that case, I would love to help out and find you a couple.
Thank you. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. One closed thing this year. Thank you.
If you need more help getting out of it, I'll try to find you a couple more.
Just assign more things to me. Yes.
Okay, see. Thank you very much. Next one. Add information about what qualifies for a milestone. I believe that the latest comment was that Taylor and Marky and every wonderful person in Bug Triage, they actually have a final draft of things.
Didn't you open a PR for that, like today or something?
Not me.
Oh, okay.
This is a different thing. This is for mine is just about mailing list and retrospective. This one is on milestones.
Got it.
Yeah, I sent over the draft to Taylor, and that was last week, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's with Taylor now.
Can we just get the draft up in GitHub and let people hack on it?
Totally. I'll just put the link to the doc in there. It's just a Google Doc, so I'll throw that in there.
Cool. Thanks.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Marky, and hopefully there'll be a ping for Taylor as well. So next one. Track enhancements, sleep across multiple releases, and document reason for inclusion. Let's take a look at this couple of issues. Okay, so track enhancements across multiple releases. I forgot about this comment. So I guess this one is still, nothing to worry about on this one. Whenever we get through code freeze, the enhancements team is gonna give us some information and document reason for inclusion of release blocking jobs. I was pinging CI signal on this one, and Daniel is helping me out with this one. But again, if anyone is interested helping on improving documentation for anything test related, please feel free to add anything to this doc. Should be open to the world, and I believe this is going to be a work in progress for a bit. So okay, so those were these two issues. Kubernetes yearly support cap, 1.17 retrospective, 1.16 retrospective. Okay, so let me see. This cap, I believe that the only thing that we can say about this cap is if you're interested about this topic, if you have ideas, comments, questions, suggestions, please check it out. And
so one of the more interesting things that's being discussed is like this definitely affects the release team. one of the more interesting things being discussed is potentially changing our cadence to question mark. We don't know yet, but that can potentially affect how long people are on the release team for, how long a release cycle is. So if you have opinions on that, please go to that cap and write stuff.
Please. And I'll add this to the notes and also ping people on Slack. But overall, I'm just +1 on anything that keeps me as a sick lead for another year. Just kidding on that though. So
we can make it. Careful what you wish for.
Moving on to next topics. 1.17 and 1.16 release retrospectives. 1.17. The last time we checked on this, we needed to clean this up.
We still need to clean it up.
Yeah.
There are so many things going on. Yeah.
I think this.
It's cleaner. Maybe it's cleaner now.
I think this could be a good opportunity to give some more experience, and I'm going to. What would you think about having me, Taylor, and Mr. Bobby Tables help you out with this one? I think it will be a good chance to do some more.
Yeah, for sure. My only concern around it was making sure that whoever works on it can distill some of the things that are said between the lines during the retro. But I think it's well documented. Yeah, you go for it. Totally.
Sweet. I'm gonna keep you on, and Mr. Bobby Tables, Taylor, and myself. Who am I?
You can drop me. I trust that y'all will execute.
Sweet. So that's that. And sorry, Bob and Taylor, if you are watching this recording at some point. I just really think that this will be a good opportunity to do some more behind the scenes work that might be super interesting. 1.16. Let's see. This one is all checked out and we just need to go through things, right?
Yeah, that one actually is in all checklisted, as you said. I think it may need a few issues in some places, and some of those I would say do the 117 one first and see how it matches up. And if we've got issues and a lot of these things cleared up are doubly mentioned, then close out the 116 one.
Sweet. In terms of procedures, is it all right if I assign myself Mr. Bobby Tables and Taylor as well?
Yeah, go crazy. It's like, and if I'm assigned, feel free to unassign me too.
Lucky, you're assigned to this one. You want to stay on, right? Because wisdom and...
Yep.
Okay, sweet. And cool. So that's that. Hoping to keep my shadows busy. Ensure release team lead handbook includes an item for adding release retrospective event. Okay, so this was the PR that I just sent. Document Kubernetes release team Google Groups membership criteria sent as well. Update release team handbooks. I actually just went through this one before this meeting, and the only thing that we have left open is the wrong issue. Is an issue for updating the docs handbook, and I ping the docs team in Slack. Okay, I got a +1. That's a good signal. So it's in progress, I guess. And the last thing in progress, update release team selection docs. And this one, I'm not really sure what the original intent was. Josh had something in mind. I'm not sure what it was, but hopefully I can figure it out. Sorry, someone was going to say something.
Yeah, I feel like we've done this maybe. Maybe there's some stuff that we can tweak around, because I remember writing up the shadow selection criteria. Maybe there's stuff we can tweak around what happens once the survey goes out, once it's like timeline to close, we haven't been consistent across cycles about exactly when we do that, but I think we're closer to about 2 weeks for the survey being open, right? And then a week and change to decide, and so on and so forth. So maybe if we just document that timeline, that should be sufficient to close this.
Okay, sounds perfect. So I guess a plan for that. Actually, I'm gonna ask: is anyone interested in working on this? Going once?
I would ask for the people who are involved or have been involved in the selection process before to volunteer for that. They're going to have the most up-to-date details.
People involved in the selection process. Emeritus leads?
Yeah, that should be a Locky thing, maybe.
Ah.
Or, oh, there you go. There you
Lucky. So you want to take it?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. I forgot to actually check who was assigned to this, so I'll just assign myself. Who am I? This one. Cool. Okay, so that's that. And now to do try splitting, release schedule, out of release, playbook. I believe the last thing we had in here was Puerco, Adolfo, was want to work on this. Not yet, sorry. Okay, sweet. So this is...
yeah, I'll take on that during this week.
Okay, sweet. That's perfect. Thank you very much for the update. And async release team project. Again, just a reminder, if you have ideas about how to make the release team more time zone friendly, please drop them in here. We have a couple ideas that go from stitching together about or updates in video, having updates in issues and the like. I voted for a couple, but please feel free to drop here and give your feedback. And I will ping people on Slack for this one as well. Improved docs release handbook. I believe that. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just a note. I think that I've gone back and forth to that issue, and I think that the last proposal that came up seemed pretty close to what we could do. But again, I think it's really important that, like, if you're on the call, if you're not on the call, you're listening to it later. The non-US people really have to push on this, right? I think it's going to be most exciting. Like, you know what you need out of this meeting better than any of us do, right? So if you are non-US time zones, like there's a lot of things that we are not considering because it's easier for us to attend these meetings. So please, if you are not in a US time zone, review that, add suggestions. I would like to see us push forward somewhere in, like, doing, even if it's not a full chunk of all of that stuff, maybe doing one of the things on the various lists that are listed in that document. So
absolutely. And we'll try to ping people and ask them on Slack. But that's kind of funny. The irony of having US people drive the asynchronous communications. Please drop your feedback in there if you can. And if you're watching this meeting at some other point. Okay, so the other couple issues, I already mentioned this one, docs, handbook update, and this one we already discussed, upload release notes JSON to Google Cloud Bucket. I have yet to go through this one in detail, but release team wise seems to.
Yeah, I think at this point, there was not support for essentially generating the bits that they need for the release note site before, but that is no longer true. So I think the last bit that we need is really just a bucket to dump the notes, so we can wire something up to pick those up and dynamically update the site. I think that was the plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. And that is to do. Let's go through backlog really quick. So create shadow in retrospective. I believe last comment was a shadow survey. It's gonna take the role of this one. And that sounds like a good idea, but what do we do about this issue? Just close it, or are there any closing remarks or anything that we want to tackle? Or Lucky,
Let's
do you
just
want
run
to?
the survey and let's see the feedback we gather. And then if we think we warrant having to do something else, we'll go from there.
Okay,
But
sweet.
let's just close it out so that if it does get, put close on the issue. So if it does get opened in later releases, we've got something to refer back to as to
Okay.
why.
Well, let's say that. Are we saying that we're going to move to surveys in this? If not, we should at least say that before we close it out.
Yes, yeah. I meant let's hold for now.
Yeah.
And we'll close it if we think the surveys are sufficient. And I'll wait till we get responses there.
Okay. So yeah, just hold for feedback on surveys. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So, Lucky, I'm gonna say that that one is completely up to you whenever you want to close it. Exceptions, Jamal. Is there any magic going on here?
So I think we jump into this one every now and again and go like, well, do we do anything with it? What do we do? I think nothing right now, but it's related to the KEP enhancement stuff, where essentially like we need to figure out if we want to do anything automation-y to the exceptions.yaml, right? I don't think there's a need today, but as we move towards talking about what that's essentially commit ticket looks like, so the idea being that we would maybe eventually move to something where a SIG, instead of filing an enhancement issue, or instead of proceeding to like consistently have the back and forth chatter on the enhancement issue, you would file like a ticket, right? That is your commit ticket for that release, right? You say in YAML, this is the KEP that it's connected to. We plan to promote to beta. These are the links to the tests or whatever, right? And that goes in a proposed bucket, right? And then from that proposed bucket, once enhancements freeze hits, we hit a button that runs a script, and the script drags the things from the proposed bucket into the accepted bucket, and then everything after that becomes an exception, right? Like we handle it with tools. So I mentioned what the layout of that could be in the enhanced KEPs artifacts PR, but that is still early. That's still just like ideas in heads. We want to focus on landing the first 3 or 4 improvements to the KEP artifacts before we start moving into tying that more deeply into the release process.
That sounds perfect. Also, so that's that one. Block release on non-synthetic clusters. Let me just check if there's an update on this one, but I believe the plan is still waiting for more jobs to be created.
Yeah, I feel like this should be in progress though.
Let's see. So we have enabled the CPO migration test on multi-node cluster deploy using Kubernetes. Actually, this sounds pretty good. So yeah, in progress. And I guess double check with CI signal to make sure that things are good. And let's see, release engineering, release team. Okay, so
who's assigned right now? Want to just make sure we have someone actually tracking that.
Myself.
Okay, cool.
Let me, yeah, I will figure things out. So what was that one? Exceptions, create shadow template for all handbooks. Test infra, this is gonna be a fun one. Scalability test. And let's go after this one. Okay, so create a shadowing template for all handbooks. Latest update. Let's have the mid-release survey. Okay, so we are gonna wait to see what the survey brings us before we think about this one again. Testing for code phrase. I want to add a couple of comments in here. I feel like the failures that we got from enabling workload identity will provide some useful piece of the story for this one. But other than that, no comments from CI signaling here. So just gonna leave it. And
Yeah,
go for it.
I was going to say, I don't know if we should consider doing like a CI signal journal or something, like, because that's like something that popped up and I think we were kind of caught unaware by it and we're still working on mitigating. So yeah, we should track those events.
I was gonna ask you more details about it, but that sounds like a rabbit hole, and we can go about it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Let's pick it up on Slack after this. Scalability test for beta releases. I was actually double checking on this one, and the last thing that I was double checking was from I sincerely, if at some point Walktech listens to this meeting, I sincerely apologize because I'm not sure I can pronounce your name properly. But other than that, okay, so on the test, I was checking around it, and it seems to be that every single thing that we are running is Google owned. The way that it works, and I got from this. I was asking the Kubernetes the Gates infra group, Boscos, just it has a GCP account, and it just has a bunch of projects. All of those projects have the different clusters, but I believe every single project is still Google owned, so we don't have any CNCF infrastructure in this sense to actually run them. And this one needs a little bit more work, but again,
So
go for it.
Yeah, so I think we're saying that we don't run them on CNCF infrastructure today. Not that we couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah, so we need to tease out. We would need to tease out those details. But also, like, I think hitting tests that are not scalability tests first as a beta run makes a lot of sense too.
Absolutely. And other than that, so that one we can also pick as offline. Other than that, we have the Kubernetes support window to 1 year, and the same procedure for entering and leaving blocks. So this one was left for the possible CI signal subproject. This one is mine, and this one we can ping people in Slack to get some more feedback. But other than that, I just looked at the clock, and I want to apologize for running over time. And thank you very much for everyone that stuck it out this long. Anyone has any closing remarks, comments?
Nice job, everyone. Seriously.
Definitely on that. And with that, thank you very much for attending. Sorry for going overboard, and happy Monday, everyone. I'll see you all Wednesday.